Hello everyone. Today, which is day 2 of this experiment I'm doing just to free up my voice and to practice speaking unscripted on things which interest me. The word that came to me that I want to talk about is synchronicity. And I just looked up the definition of it, even though I have my own ideas of what it means. And apparently it is, I found the definition was interesting because it leads me to think about this other aspect of consciousness that synchronicity symbolizes. But anyway, synchronicity is when seemingly unrelated events with no cause occur and they have a significance in your life. And Jung, my favourite psychologist, psychiatrist, theorist about how our psyche works, believed that synchronicity was sort of evidence of a universal consciousness or a field of consciousness. Anyway, the reason that I love to think about synchronicity and what I think synchronicity is flow and flow state. And that's something that I was going to say strive for, but it's kind of a opposite meaning, striving. Flow state is something that needs to occur for any creative act, whether it's writing or painting or creating any original work, always comes from being in the flow state. So paying attention to synchronicity is really paying attention to what gets you into the flow state. And for me, it's about, I find that synchronicity happens when I let go of preconceptions. And it's the same with the flow state. And this is another reason why at the moment I'm just recording the video turned to where I'm looking, not of my face, because I can get very distracted if I'm recording it looking at my face in the camera. And I don't want any interferences or resistance or distractions to just being in the flow state with this communication. So something interesting about synchronicity is the definition that I just read when I Googled it was events that occur with no specific cause or relation, but that have a significance in your life. And this is interesting because something that I've been learning through my studies with the book called A Course in Miracles, which I've been reading each day for a year and a month now, and Dr. David Hawkins' work, which is all about consciousness and the levels of consciousness explained. I saw this on one of the clips that someone's put up of Dr. David Hawkins talking. He's no longer alive, but because he gave so many seminars when he was alive, there are a lot of clips that a particular, I think it's a publisher, puts up on YouTube, 2 or 3 minutes long. And this particular one, I can't remember what the topic was, but I mean, everything he talks about has to do with levels of consciousness. But he was talking about how when you reach a certain level of consciousness, you see that there is no cause and effect. It is just things happen when conditions are right. And that, to me, is being in that flow state and that synchronicity. And I have grasped it sometimes, and when I grasp it, it's really profound. But I just wanted to share that because it's really interesting to consider. What if things weren't about cause and effect? What if things just occurred when conditions were right? This means that you don't have to strive for things. It's just about receiving, accepting, and seeing the conditions that need to exist. It's really interesting. I think it's really interesting as well for manifestation. If you're thinking about manifestation of any kind, and interestingly, the Course in Miracles is also related because it's called A Course in Miracles. And the whole idea of miracles are things that are so out of the ordinary for our logical brain to accept that we can only call them miracles. And the whole thing about the Course in Miracles is that we are worthy of miracles by our very existence and by the fact of our being alive. And it's really a course in forgiveness, self-forgiveness more than anything else. And once you have forgiven yourself, you start to see the miracles. And I have started to see so many things that I would call miracles occur without any particular cause and effect since I have been moving through the world in this way of self-forgiveness and release and letting go. Miracles that perhaps to someone else would not be considered a miracle, but for me, because of what I used to experience or what I once saw in their place, I call them a miracle. And that is synchronicity and flow to me. So every day, I've been playing with this as well. Every day saying, this is the most fantastic day. And just coming back to the moment and going, this is an incredible day, and saying it as so and claiming it as so, and not thinking about, okay, there needs to be this cause. It needs to be Saturday and I need to be doing this for this to be the most incredible day. Cause and effect. No, just letting that go, coming back to the moment and going, this is a miracle right now. This breath is a miracle. My very life is a miracle. This blade of grass, this leaf, this submarine or rocket ship that I'm looking at is a miracle. I think it's actually a submarine. Everyone always thinks it's a rocket. But the owner of this house likes to scuba dive, and I think it's his own submarine that he's gone into the water in. I would never go into this submarine. It's tiny. Anyway, I think it's very beautiful. It's an installation work of art. But coming back to miracles and synchronicity, it's just a really beautiful thing to contemplate, that what if you didn't have to do anything? What if cause and effect didn't exist? What if things just happened when conditions were right? That's what Dr. David Hawkins said in one of his lectures. Things occur when conditions are right. Because when you look at mathematical equations, scientific formulas, measurements of time, data, the growth of a plant, all sorts of things. Yes, there are formulas and calculations, but there's always exceptions to every rule, and there's always anomalies. And that's really, these are miracles, And, this is not to say that we don't work on things and we don't show up and do the work and commit to taking certain courses of action and behaviour if you would like to receive or achieve or get to a particular place. For example, if you want to, go to Queensland, I'm in Victoria right now, I'm going to need to either buy a plane ticket or get in a car and drive to Queensland. But the details of it, like when and how much it's going to cost and all of that, can just happen and flow and be very synchronous. And flow state is, again, I come back to music all the time, because music is flow to me, and music always reminds me of how circular and rhythmic our very life is, and our very being and nature is. And that is the natural way to create and flow in beauty. It's actually unnatural to suffer and struggle, and it's unnecessary. Oh, that's a good one. Suffering is completely unnecessary. That was an epiphany I had as I was working through A Course in Miracles, and I'm so happy that I let that belief go, because it's not a nice belief to have. Because when you believe something, you then make it to be true every day. And I used to believe that suffering was necessary to realize or change anything, but I no longer believe that. You can actually just change things. How nice is that? So, yeah, I've rambled a bit, but that's okay. What a nice thing to consider. Synchronicity, flow state. What gets you in the flow state? For me, it is what gets me in the receiving mode. And that is simply letting go and breathing and being in the moment again. And forgiveness and, yeah, just that state of consciousness where everything is okay, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're looking at. Just closing your eyes and breathing and remembering everything's okay. You are alive. And that in itself is the miracle. And you can always choose to just go back to that and remember that you are flowing, even when you can't see it. Everything in your body, everything that you can't see is flowing to its own rhythm. And we're going into winter here in Victoria, where I am. And I love the metaphors and symbolism of winter, particularly with creativity. I think I wrote both of my books in the winter months because there's something so magical about the dark season to me, because that's when everything gets created under the surface. And it's a beautiful time to go inward and do things silently, invisibly, quietly. That's when the real work of creation is happening. It's, babies are formed in the dark, and plants and seeds are planted in a dark, in the darkness of the earth. Everything needs darkness to prosper and profligate and expand and grow. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean a whole lot isn't happening. My partner and I went for our beautiful Sunday walk this morning through this particular forest that we love. And something I always contemplate when I'm walking through a particular part of that forest is just how much is happening under our feet. A whole world of insects and animals is occurring around us that we can't see. It is so lovely to contemplate the life that is going on that we can't see. Anyway, this was about synchronicity, but I've kind of covered a few other things. That's all right. I will see you for another video soon.